Hello all and welcome back to the final recap of the season as we head around the world one last time for our championship deciders in ACC, iRacing, F123 and Dirt Rally 2.0. The final round of ACC takes us to Kyalami in South Africa. In qualifying, Aidan Larson and Colin McCullough put themselves into P2 and P3 respectively, but it was Jimmy Lynn up on top of the timing boards in his McLaren. The rain would fall for the start of the race and some drivers would stay on the slick tyre compound, which resulted in mayhem through the first corner. Josh Parrott would retire while McCullough would take the lead of the race in his Porsche. More havoc would break loose further down the grid, and 4 drivers would pit by the end of the first lap to repair their cars. Angus Fender would only need 6 laps to take the lead of the race, starting from the back. As the track conditions improved further into the race, the drivers would change their tyres and he would go back to second, with McCullough retaking the lead for a few laps until Angus caught up again. Joe Scher, who did not have a good time towards the back, his rear often stepping out, would retire his car from the race, and Sam Knight would struggle to catch Ed Haskell, having had a spin through the barbecue corner. In the closing laps of the race, the skies would open again and rain poured onto the track. With only a few laps to go, the drivers had to make the decision to pit or to stay out, the front runners opting to stay out and brave the conditions. Angus Fender would be unfazed by the change in conditions and come across the line in P1, taking the race win, the Alumni Championship and the BUSR Cup, completely dominating those series. Joe Scher's retirement meant that when Colin McCullough crossed the line in second place, he would take the Student Championship after a season-long battle with our reigning champion. In iRacing, the postponed 5th round became our final round of the season, taking us to Oran Park in the land down under. Jack Noller would take pole in qualifying, with Marley Watts close behind. Peter Stather and Louis Jordan Charles would take the second row, and Jonan Turner and Jack Maloney would fill out the grid in the third row. Noller and Watts would battle at the start of the race, but Watts would come out on top as Noller fell down the order. Watts would soon follow and also fall down the order, and allow Jordan Charles to take the lead of the race. The only student driver, Jonan Turner, would struggle, locking up the rears and spinning multiple times. In the end, it was Jordan Charles who crossed the line first with Stafford in P2. The feature race would see Stafford have a great start and challenge Jordan Charles into the first corner, but it would not be long before contact was made and chaos was unleashed as cars spun off the track. The cars would regroup and Watts would take the lead as Stafford went wide on the first corner. Only a lap later, Stafford would attempt an ambitious dive bomb into the first corner and caused more chaos, with more cars pitting to repair damage. Watts kept the lead, and Noller made it into P2 as the cars grouped up and restarted again. Stafford would attempt the same move and once again fail, but Watts and Noller would battle at the front, with Noller eventually making a move stick. Stather and Jordan Charles would battle for third place, with contact being made, but they kept it out of the barriers and battled to the end. Noller would take a convincing win with Watts in P2, and Stather would come in P3 after a long battle with Jordan Charles, who let him pass after compromising Pete's exit onto the main straight. Maloney and Turner would round out the grid of the feature race, but it would be Stather who would be back as he celebrates taking home the BUSR Cup. F1 is headed to Interlagos as the final round of the championship at the historic track. Qualifying would put Joe at the top, with Dasher following close behind, the only driver to set a time in 1:07 seconds. Matti Mumu would be starting third, with Geek in fourth. The race would start clean, being the only race this season without a safety car in the first lap, which would become the entire race. A mistake from Joe would allow Dasher to get into first, with Matty not far behind. A failed overtake attempt from Matty would allow Geek and Joe to pass him, putting him into fourth, and P1 would be contested by Geek and Joe. Battles further back would create a separate DRS train with some uneasy moments, but no major incidents. As drivers pitted for fresh rubber, Dasher would briefly hold P1 before pitting, and Matty would briefly fall down the grid, but it was not long before he was back in P3 and Dasher back into the lead. In the closing moments of the race, position was crucial as it would determine the champion. Matty's medium tyres would start to fall off, and would not be able to catch up to Dasher and Joe, with Geek on his tail and a fuller battery. Dasher's mediums would outdo Joe's hard compound tyres, and they would battle until the last lap, where Dasher would take the lead at the end of the race, and Geek's hard compounds would outdo Matty's mediums, allowing him to get into P3 on the final lap. The championship would be decided down the main straight, where Joe would attempt to pass Dasher before the line, but would fall 38 milliseconds short, allowing Dasher to take the race win. It's a similar story just behind, with Matty chasing down Geek to the flag, but falling 56 milliseconds behind, allowing Dash to snatch up that championship win by just a few points. In Dirt Rally 2.0, it came down to the finale in Germany for our competitors. Nobody was safe. There was a 3-way battle for the title, and any of our 13 competitors see a change in position if the fearsome Panzerplatte test was to get the better of them. First out of the starting blocks was Ed Haskell. With his task to just beat Charlotte Perkins, he wrestled his Lancia Stratos around the twists and turns and picked it out of several trees in Henkelsteins along the way. Despite losing heaps of time, and with a power stage run nearly twice as long as the fastest time at a massive 13 minutes, he was able to get the better of Charlotte. She lost control of her Ford Sierra Cosworth in Stage 6, being forced to retire and concede 7th place in the championship by 3 points. Elsewhere, relatively hassle-free runs for Adam Benjamin and Ewan West gave them 5th and 6th respectively. Issues for Red Egg forced their retirement in Stage 7 and putting them ahead of Perkins, giving the Salford driver a solid 9th place in the standings. This left the top 4, all familiar faces throughout the season throughout the year, and there was a battle of timing. Whoever would do their run first would set the pace of the other 3. Penny went first, damaging her gearbox to a point it needed a full replacement before the rally-ending power stage. Then it was the first of the title protagonists, Jack Noller. With issues in the first stage as well as the power stage of his Renault 5 Turbo, he felt he had lost the championship to Doomskull. By beating Penny, albeit slower than her in the final test, it was down to the other 2 challengers to see where the points would fall. Asher V was next in and, whilst he was able to dethrone Penny in the power stage, he was still beaten by Jack in the overall event. This all but guaranteed Jack a 2nd overall title in the row, having been a champion in his NSE debut the previous season. It left it all down to Doomskull to take the title, the overall champion in the winter and the student champion in the spring. Doomskull was able to beat Jack in the power stage, but not the overall rally. He struggled for pace against Jack in his own Renault, only besting Jack in the end of season power stage but managing to be within 5 thousandths in stage 2. Asher V was able to beat Doomskull to 2nd in the event standings, which meant it was down to the rally goals to decide the champion. Whilst Doomskull had accumulated 170 points over the season to Jack's 166, only a driver's 5 best scores would carry over. Jack had scored his impressive tally over just 5 events, while Doomskull dropped 24 points as he accumulated his over 6 events. This gave Jack his 2nd consecutive title by 20 points. And that concludes the 2023 summer season here at the BUSR. We will back in a couple months' time for the winter season for more racing action, but in the meanwhile, stay tuned for some of our upcoming public events. If you're interested in joining in on the action in any of our franchises and some of our other minor games such as Grand Theft Auto, you can do so at busr.gg/discord. But for now, thank you to our fantastic team who's been throughout this season, for Danila, for Pran, and for Mike. And I've been Cav, you've been awesome. We'll see you again soon. Bye for now.